जहाँ पे मैं बिल्कुल मुझे कोई ज्ञान नहीं है। मैं अपनी बात अपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन और टेक्नोलॉजी पे अभी आपको बताना चाहूंगा। पिछले 10 साल में भारत बदल रहा है नहीं, और बहुत बदल गया है। अभी उद्बोधन में शुरुआत में हमारे लिए कहा गया टेक्नोलॉजी डेवलपमेंट बोर्ड 95 96 में हम लोगों ने शुरू किया वर्क। मैं कुछ एनेक्डोट से शुरू करना चाहूंगा जो कि आपके कॉन्टेक्स्ट सेट करेगा इस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के लिए। ये ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एक यूनिक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया में, जो कि प्राइवेट सेक्टर को फाइनेंशियली हेल्प करता है फॉर देयर टेक्नोलॉजी कमर्शियलाइजेशन इफ दे आर एट TRL 7। बट प्रॉब्लम ये है कि इसकी जानकारी बहुत कम लोगों को है। और मेरे ज्वाइन करने के बाद मैंने ये कोशिश किया कि बहुत जगह इसकी हम जानकारी दें, और अभी बहुत जगह पे गई भी है। शायद आप लोगों को ये जान के आश्चर्य होगा कि जब हमने कोविड पैंडेमिक के 2 वर्ष के अंदर कोविड वैक्सीन बनाई थी, भारत बायोटेक ने बनाया था, तो सभी जानते हैं। जब मनसुख मांडविया जी तब हेल्थ मिनिस्टर थे, उनके सामने हमने अपनी ये बात रखी थी तो वो भी बड़ी आश्चर्यचकित हुए थे। मैंने कहा सर ये तो सभी जानते हैं और आप लोग सेलिब्रेट कर रहे हैं, लेकिन क्या आपको पता है कि इसके जड़ में फाउंडेशन स्टोन किसने ले की थी? जब डॉक्टर कृष्णा एल्ला US से और डॉक्टर रेड्डी ऑफ शांता बायोटेक इंडिया आए 95 96, और वो चाहते थे कि हम हेपेटाइटिस बी वैक्सीन बनाएं इंडिया में, तो कोई बैंक आगे नहीं आ रहा था उसके प्रोजेक्ट को सपोर्ट करने के लिए, क्योंकि टेक्नोलॉजी रिस्की प्रोजेक्ट थी और हमें अपने साइंटिस्ट पे भरोसा नहीं था। उस दौर में टेक्नोलॉजी डेवलपमेंट बोर्ड ने उनकी पहली वैक्सीन प्रोजेक्ट को सपोर्ट किया था। उस समय वैक्सीन की कीमत वर्ल्ड ओवर $25 हुआ करती थी, और जब हम लोगों ने बनाना शुरू किया $1 उसकी प्राइस आ गई थी, $1 वर्ल्ड ओवर। और हमने अभी तक करीब मोर देन 400 मिलियन डोजेज वर्ल्ड को एक्सपोर्ट किया बाई वन कंपनी। शांता बायोटेक एंड भारत बायोटेक दोनों मिलाए ले तो करीब 1,000 मिलियन डोजेस। फॉरगेट अबाउट दैट, द काइंड ऑफ सोशल बेनिफिट वी गॉट इट। उसके बाद से इम्यूनाइजेशन प्रोग्राम में बच्चों को हेपेटाइटिस बी वैक्सीन मैंडेटरी किया गया था, पहले नहीं था क्योंकि कॉस्ट बहुत ज्यादा थी। उसके ऊपर देखें आप, यदि हम $25 में लेते उसको कंपेयर करें $1 से, और एक कोई इकोनॉमिक बेनिफिट आप निकाले, सोशल बेनिफिट निकाले, ट्रिमेंडस। आज हम लोग इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल की बात करते हैं। शायद आपको जान के आश्चर्य हो कि वक्त से पहले वर्ष 2000 में हम लोगों ने रेवा जो प्रोजेक्ट था इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल का, उसको हमने फंड किया था, और महिंद्रा ने अभी उसको परचेज किया। somehow we are the शेयर होल्डर और महिंद्रा also because we have funded that company। उस समय मार्केट नहीं थी इंडिया में, और आज वो मार्केट है। मार्केट नहीं थी, वो इकोसिस्टम नहीं था। और आज हम ईवी की बात करते हैं 20 साल पहले। अभी जस्ट महाकुंभ खत्म हुआ आपके बगल प्रयागराज में। आप कृपया हाथ उठा के बताएं कितने लोगों ने वो ड्रोन शो देखा जो अभी महाकुंभ में जस्ट किया गया था बाय ए कंपनी बॉटलर डायनेमिक्स। वो मेरा बहुत ही प्राउड फीलिंग है कि वो मेरी पहली प्रोजेक्ट थी एज ए सेक्रेटरी TTV, जो मैंने उसको सपोर्ट किया IIT दिल्ली इनक्यूबेटेड कंपनी। और उस समय उसको हम लोगों ने करीब 2.5 करोड़ दिए थे, और 50 लाख हमारा DST से निधि प्रयास से मिला था, और कुछ जो FIIT दिल्ली ने उसमें इन्वेस्ट किया था। करीब 6 करोड़ के उसके प्रोजेक्ट थी, 1000 ड्रोन बना करके। और ये 2-3 बच्चे जो बिल्कुल IIT दिल्ली से पास आउट है, दे वांटेड टू डू इट एज ए कंपनी, और सपोर्टेड बाय वन टीचर सरिता उनके मेंटर थी। नाउ शी इज हेडिंग दैट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन। हम लोगों ने उसको नॉट ओनली द फाइनेंशियल सपोर्ट, डिफेंस मिनिस्ट्री के साथ टाई अप करके उसको पहला ड्रोन शो बीटिंग रिट्रीट परेड 2022 29 जनवरी को करने का मौका दिया राष्ट्रपति भवन के ऊपर। और लोगों ने ये शो किया, वहां से दे हैव बिकम सो बिग। Within 2 years, they have reverted back my interest, loan and interest already, and they are around 100 crore company now, employing more than 170 people within the 3 years or 4 years of journey. I can tell you lots of project, important project of national importance, last 3 or 4 years we have supported. How many of you know today in India that magnet, neodymium magnet uses in almost all, whether you पंखे में आप लगा ले या किसी भी इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स में ले ले, वो मैग्नेट यूज होती है. 99% ऑफ द मैग्नेट हम लोग इंपोर्ट करते हैं चाइना से. चाइना इज कंट्रोलिंग रेयर अर्थ. फर्स्ट टाइम आउटसाइड चाइना हम लोगों ने एक प्रोजेक्ट सपोर्ट किया है और हमारा खुद का टेक्नोलॉजी एनएफटीडी से जो कोल मिनिस्टर आते हैं उनके टेक्नोलॉजी उनके प्रोसेसेस उसको सपोर्ट किया है और हैदराबाद में वो प्लांट लग रहा है. हो सकता है अगले 1 साल में हम लोग खुद का अपना मैग्नेट फ्रॉम रेयर अर्थ बनाना चालू कर दें. ये आउटसाइड यूएस के पास भी नहीं है ना. यूएस ट्राइंग टू परसुएड दिस कंपनी और $50 बिलियन देने को तैयार है कि आप आइए और यूएस में अपना प्रोजेक्ट लगाइए. बट अभी तो हमारे यहाँ लग रही है. हो सकता है कुछ खुशखबरी कुछ दिन में ही आपको इसको सुनने को मिलेगा. वैसे ही एक प्रोजेक्ट में 2-3 प्रोजेक्ट की मैं बात करूं जो हमारी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन कर रही है. वैसे ही एक प्रोजेक्ट जो एक लीनियर एक्सेलेरेटर मशीन होती है जिसपे हम लोगों को एक्चुअली अपने साइंटिस्ट पे भरोसा करना चाहिए. मेडिकल इक्विपमेंट 86% आज भी हम इंपोर्ट करते हैं. ठीक है. एक ऐसी प्रोडक्ट मैं बता रहा हूँ लीनियर एक्सेलेरेटर, आप जाके देख लें, गूगल सर्च कर लें. उस पे वो प्रिसीजन रेडिएशन देने का काम करता है ड्यूरिंग कैंसर, ब्रेन में हो कहीं भी. तो उस पे होती है कि भाई उस जिस टिश्यू को इफेक्ट किया उस पे ही उसकी रेडिएशन है, अदर टिश्यूज पे. उसके लिए प्रिसीजन टेक्नोलॉजी हमारे सीरी पिलानी सीएसआईआर का इंस्टीट्यूट है, उन्होंने एस बैंड मैग्नेट्रॉन कैथोडिक ट्यूब का आविष्कार किया, मान सकते इनोवेट किया. उसको यूज करके एक कंपनी हमारे यहाँ बना रही है सपोर्टेड बाय टीडीबी, जो कि करीब 12 से 13 करोड़ में आ जाएगा, मैक्सिमम 14 करोड़. अभी वर्ल्ड में केवल 2 ही कंपनी लीनियर एक्सीलरेटर मशीन बनाती है, एक यूएस की एक स्वीडन की. वो करीब 25 से 30 करोड़ में हमारे देश में उसकी कॉस्टिंग आती है. हम 13 से 14 करोड़ में वो प्रोडक्ट, और आपको सुन के खुशी होगी, फर्स्ट टाइम यूरोप हम एक्सपोर्ट करने जा रहे हैं, साउथ अफ्रीका जिम्बाब्वे एक्सपोर्ट करने जा रहे हैं. और यूएस के कम्युनिटी हॉस्पिटल से बात चल रही है उस कंपनी की, शायद ये प्रोडक्ट हम यूएस को एक्सपोर्ट करें. और दैट इज द हाई एंड टेक्नोलॉजी डिवाइसेस आई एम टॉकिंग ऑफ. दिस काइंड ऑफ intervention technology develop. I am proud to having associated with this organization. Today, India is changing and changing rapidly. लास्ट 10 साल में जो हमारा इकोसिस्टम बना है, जो फाइनेंसिंग सपोर्ट एक्सेट्रा, 2014 के आसपास तकरीबन 500, 600 या 1000 स्टार्टअप होंगे. आज करीब 1.5 लाख के आसपास रजिस्टर्ड स्टार्टअप हैं. तकरीबन आज 116 के करीब यूनिकॉर्न है, पहले 1-2 हुआ करते थे. और एक रिसेंट फिनोमेना होना शुरू हुआ है, जो अभी चौधरी साहब कह रहे थे कि जो बड़े बड़ी कंपनी गूगल और इनवीडिया एंड ऑल दोज, ये लोग यूएस में रजिस्टर्ड हैं. बिल्कुल सही बात है. बट कुछ कंपनियां जो हमारे यहाँ की कंपनी थी और बहुत अच्छा कर रही थी, कुछ साल पहले वो भी यूएस और सिंगापुर में जाकर के रजिस्ट्रेशन कराया था उन लोगों ने. लेकिन अभी ये वक्त बदल रहा है. आज ही किसी पेपर में मुझे भेजा गया, मैंने पढ़ा, भारत पे मीशो एंड अदर कंपनी दे आर कमिंग बैक टू इंडिया. In that process, one of the company has paid 8,000 crores of rupees as a settlement to move out from country A and coming back to India. So reverse thing is started happening. All those companies who got registered outside, many of them is now coming back to us. Recently, in fact, last week I was so tied up with that program. Government of India has done 2 or 3 major initiatives, I will tell. One is, of course, Anusandhan National Research Foundation, which is now chaired by Honorable Prime Minister, is announced around 50,000 crores of corpus with industry and government funding. This was one part of it. But last year, government has announced 1 lakh crore corpus set up to fund support industrial research by industry. And this is not a mean funding. 20,000 crore already allocated in this budget. And last week on 5th, we were busy in that organizing webinar on this particular subject. There are other subjects as well, where Honorable Prime Minister in series of post-budget webinar, one of these was investment in innovation. One was investment in people, investment in economy, and investment in innovation. And we had a very good discussion with all is industrial uh, stalwart, you name it, like Bharat Ford, CMD Baba Kalyani or Chris Gopalan and many others. And we come out how to operationalize this 1 lakh crore corpus, which will be fueling the massive research across, along with the Prime Minister fellowship program, which is launched around by 8,300 crore corpus by all IITs and ISC. This that together, so our main focus is now cutting edge research, sunrise sector, and most of all, the strategic autonomy. We want to control or we want to develop some technology, maybe AI, maybe quantum, we do not know at this stage, but some technology which should be controlled by India so that tomorrow world cannot bully me. So that is strategic autonomy we are talking of. And and given those mathematical prowess we have, given those number of technological mission working like semiconductor mission, in interdisciplinary cyber physical system mission, then your quantum mission, then AI missions, all together, and with this fund coming in that industry, it is going to be a game changer for sure for next 5 to 10 years. And if we are able to develop some, I can tell you, under quantum mission, one of the companies, Bangalore, is already developed a 24 qubit computer system. And we are working even more higher speed, and probably we will become the leader in some areas. So we want to leadership. So we believe that we have a right to win in this some of the technology where we have the strength and we have the right and we will win. The government is setting up all those policies today to spur technology innovation across sector. Coming back to this, your 3 days power back programs relating to the plastic industries, I also believe that this is a time कि हम लोगों को इंडस्ट्री के साथ बिल्कुल इंडस्ट्री एकेडमी और गवर्नमेंट, आप उसको ट्रिनिटी कहें या ट्रिपल हेलिक्स जो एकेडमिक वर्ल्ड में यूज होता है, इस सबको आज एक साथ आने की जरूरत है। और आज इस फोरम के माध्यम से सीपेट ने सभी लोगों को प्लास्टिक इंडस्ट्री के माध्यम से आप यहाँ पर लेके आए हैं। हम आशा करते हैं कि यहाँ से भी कुछ ऐसी टेक्नोलॉजी जो 200 रिसर्च पेपर पब्लिश्ड जो प्रेजेंट किए जाएंगे, कुछ ऐसी टेक्नोलॉजी निकल के आए जो सही माने में डिसरप्टिव टेक्नोलॉजी हो और वो हमें वो स्ट्रेटेजिक ऑटोनॉमी दे। फॉर एग्जांपल, लेट्स से आई एम जस्ट थिंकिंग लाउडली, many in let's say car industry today, around 12 to 14% of the parts is plastic. If some plastic composite we able to develop which will give us the strategic economy which others do not have, then probably we will be holding some key IPR with us. Today in India, every day, every year, around 30 to 40,000 IPR is being filed, which was not heard of earlier. Today we are the third in the publication in after US and China, very slowly catching up, and our citation has increased. So there is an academia working. The only thing is that it has to be integrated with industry, and probably this kind of forum specific to one particular sector. Now this is a plastic sector, will be highly useful, and I hope at the end of the day, due deliberation, some good technology come out. And if this technology is at TRL 6 or 7, where you need commercialization, feel free कि आप टीडीवी के वेबसाइट पे आए, हमारे प्रोग्राम्स को देखें, हमारे जो फंडिंग को देखें और आप उसका लाभ उठाने का कोशिश करें। हमारी बिल्कुल ये एक एंडेवर सा रहता है कि हम लोग किसी को ना नहीं करते हैं तब तक, जब तक कि उसकी टेक्नोलॉजी या उसके फाइनेंशियल में कोई बहुत ही ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम है। करते भी हैं तब भी फायदा ये है कि जो हमारे पास प्रोजेक्ट आता है हम उसके लिए कोई पैसा चार्ज नहीं करते, तो उसकी इवेल्युएशन उसको फ्री में मिल जाती है। अब मैं एग्जांपल देता हूँ, अब ऐसे लोगों से जिसको वो चाह करके भी कितना भी पैसा खर्चा करे उसको अपने साथ नहीं ला सकता। अभी एक कंपनी सूरत की है, इसको हम लोगों ने फंड किया है कि वो हम बना रहे हैं काबी ट्रांस, जो आप उसके फुल फॉर्म देखें, हम उतने टेक्नोलॉजिकल एक्सपर्ट नहीं है, तो वो बेसिकली हार्ट में जा करके यदि आपका एज के साथ वो वाल्व बंद होना कम होता है तो उसमें वो ट्रांसप्लांट करते हैं, थ्रू एक नस के थ्रू जाता है और वो काम करता है। उसकी करीब वो भी 2 ही 3 कंपनी वर्ल्ड में बना रही है, करीब 25 लाख के आसपास आती है। उसका भी हम लोग 7 से 8 लाख में बनाने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं इंडिया में, ताकि 5 लाख से नीचे आयुष्मान भारत में लेके और बहुत लोगों की हमारी जरूरत पूरी होगी सोसाइटी में। उसके जो हमारे प्रोजेक्ट रेगुलेटर थे, वो जो पद्मश्री आईसीएमआर के चेयरपर्सन बलराम भार्गव, वो हमारे साथ पीईसी में उनके साथ मैं भी गया था और सूरत गए थे। यदि कोई भी कंपनी कितना भी पैसा दे दे, बलराम भार्गव का टाइम मिलना आज की तारीख में इज नॉट दैट इजी, बट हम लोग वो प्रोवाइड कराते हैं। तो एक स्ट्रेंथ है हमारा, इसको आप लोग सब यूटिलाइज करें। और इसी के साथ मैं अपनी वाणी को विराम देता हूं और इस पूरे कॉन्फ्रेंस की सफलता हो ऐसा कामना करता हूं। धन्यवाद, हमें आने का मौका दिया और कहने का अवसर प्रदान किया। थैंक यू।
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया सर। इशारों इशारों में आपने हमें ये बता दिया है कि आप आइडिया लेकर के आइए, पैसे की कमी नहीं है, भरपूर पैसा देश में है, बोर्ड के पास है, हमें केवल अपना आइडिया लेकर के जाना है। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर आपके प्रेरणादायी उद्बोधन के लिए। अब वक्त आ गया है एक ऐसी शख्सियत को आवाज देने का जिसका जन्म प्रकृति की गोद में हुआ, हिमालय की तराइयों में हुआ और पूरा जीवन उन्होंने उस प्रकृति को संवारने में अपना लगा दिया। अपने इन भागीरथी प्रयासों के चलते पर्यावरण संवर्धन का जो इन्होंने एक भागीरथी प्रयास किया है, उसके चलते भारत सरकार ने तृतीय एवं चतुर्थ सर्वोच्च पुरस्कार पद्म भूषण और पद्मश्री से आपको सम्मानित किया है। जोरदार तालियों से स्वागत कीजिए आदरणीय अनिल प्रकाश जोशी सर का।
आप सब लोग मेरा प्रणाम स्वीकार करें। कभी जब मैं प्लास्टिक के बारे में सोचता हूं तो मैं सोचता हूं कि दुनिया का एक ही प्रोडक्ट ऐसा है जिसे सब भोगते हैं और सब उसको कोसते हैं। उसकी हालत उस गरीब आदमी की तरह है कि जब चाहे लात मारे और जब चाहे दुलारे कि आइए आपका उपयोग करना है। कितना बड़ा सवाल है ये। लगता नहीं है आपको कि हमारा चरित्र दोहरा है? हम दोहरे चरित्र के हैं, अपनी सुविधाओं आवश्यकताओं के अनुसार व्यवहार करते हैं। अब कहां प्लास्टिक नहीं है? और एक गरीब से पूछिए। अब ये प्लास्टिक और प्लास्टिक से संदर्भित जितनी भी चर्चाएं होती हैं वे खास तबके के साथ होती हैं। विज्ञानी पक्ष में विपक्ष में, पर्यावरणविद पारिस्थितिकीविद पक्ष में विपक्ष में। एक गरीब घर की कल्पना करिए जिसकी जब छत टपकती है तो वो प्लास्टिक का क्या कहते हैं उसको, वो उसका पानी को रोकता है। और घर में जब बच्चे पैदा होते हैं, बिस्तर गंदा ना हो तो भी आप प्लास्टिक ही परोसते हैं। सवाल ये है कि इस प्लास्टिक को कोसते 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 कहीं प्लास्टिक भी गंभीर हो गया। अब माइक्रो प्लास्टिक में आपके ब्लड में ही चला गया। बोलिए, चाहिए नहीं चाहिए प्लास्टिक? कहां पे है गलतियां? उसी चरित्र पे सवाल है जिसका प्रबंधन ठीक नहीं था। क्यों? किसी भी आविष्कार को हम कैसे नकार सकते हैं? कितनी अजीब बात है। एक आविष्कार होता है, एक उपयोग करता है और एक विरोध करता है, तीनों एक साथ नहीं होते। जो आविष्कार करेगा वो चमत्कार किया है, हम उपयोग में लाते हैं, हमारी आवश्यकता है। और एक जो उपयोग भी करता है लेकिन वो अपोज करता है क्योंकि रोमांटिक अप्रोच है। ये बड़े सवाल हैं जिस पर शायद आज ज्यादा बड़ी बहस का भी समय है। देखिए, अगर कोई चीज आपको खराब ही कहनी है तो तुलना भी कर लीजिए। आपको क्या लगता है कि दुनिया में जो कुछ भी हमने कर डाला, बिगाड़ डाला, हवा बदल डाली, आपका नाइट्रोजन ऑक्साइड जो फेफड़ों में जा रहा, कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड, मीथेन जो कमाल करने जा रही है, या फिर अपने हमारे उत्तराखंड के पहाड़ नीचे खिसकते चले जा रहे हैं और नए कूड़ों के पहाड़ खड़े हो जा रहे हैं और उसमें से मीथेन भी निकल रही है और सब कुछ निकल रहा है। अब तुलना करिए, और तुलना होनी भी चाहिए। मुझे शिशिर जी आपसे एक अनुरोध है, बताइए तुलनात्मक अध्ययन करके, और जरूरी भी है। एक तरफ प्लास्टिक है जिसे हम कोसते हैं, हर के घर सबके जेब में मोबाइल है, बल्कि सुन भी कम रहे हैं, मोबाइल ज्यादा देख रहे हैं। प्लास्टिक वो इतना दिलो दिमाग में छा चुका है, हर रूप में छा चुका है। पाठक जी ने बहुत अच्छी बात बोली, मुझे बड़ी अपील की कि पहले मैं नहीं जानता था, लेकिन जब मैं सिफेट में आया तो मेरा दृष्टिकोण बदल गया। असल में कहां पर सब कुछ सबसे बड़ी गहन और बहस की आवश्यकता है, ये प्रबंधन के सवाल है। आपने दुनिया से पानी खो दिया, नदियां सूख गई, ग्लेशियर पिघलने को आ गए, क्या प्लास्टिक की देन है? आपकी देन है। और आप सब चीजों को अपने से जोड़िए पहले, और सरकारों को कोसना बंद कर दीजिए कि सरकार ने ये कर दिया, सरकार ने वो कर दिया। आपने किया। सरकार कोई विदेश वाला आदमी पक्के बनाता है? यहां पे नहीं चाहिए आपको प्लास्टिक, तो मना कर दीजिए ना सब लोग मिलकर के, और नहीं करिए उसका उपयोग भी। मैं व्यक्तिगत रूप से उस तमाम बातों का विरोध हूं जो इस तरह के विरोध करते हैं, उपयोग में भी लाते हैं, विरोध में भी करते हैं। हम विकल्प नहीं जानते, न समझते न समझाते। और शायद आपको एक अध्ययन करना चाहिए, निश्चित करना चाहिए। एक तरफ देश में पर्यावरण के, दुनिया में होने वाले कारणों, घातकता और जो कुछ भी है, और एक तरफ वो गरीब बेचारा प्लास्टिक। उसे आदमी की दृष्टि से देख लिए, सब उपयोग करते हैं पर नतियाते सब है, खराब है, साफ कचरा है। कौन सा? मैं समझता हूं सरकार में हो, गैर सरकार में हो, प्लास्टिक का उपयोग है। लेकिन सवाल कहां पे टेढ़ा खड़ा है, वो ये है कि हम सब बैठ के चिंता नहीं करते। और मैं ये तो भी कहना चाहूंगा, आपने 8 मार्क रखा महिला, आपको पता है और आपको करना चाहिए। एक नितांत जिसमें पुरुष पुरुष वर्ग न हो, सिर्फ महिलाओं से प्लास्टिक के बारे में दृष्टिकोण लीजिएगा। वो है ना सब कुछ, उनका दृष्टिकोण लीजिए, वो बताएं कितना प्लास्टिक बेहतर धौंस जमाते हैं, पर महिलाएं देश चलाती है। गांव जिंदा महिलाओं से है, शहर में तो भाग लिए पुरुष। इसलिए कभी कभी कुछ विषय विज्ञानियों के हाथ से बाहर है, समझना चाहिए। और तंत्र से भी बाहर है, और राजनीतिक पहुंच से भी बाहर है। और ऐसे विषय जब सबके होते हैं, और उनमें भी जो सबसे बड़ा अंग है, जो किसी न किसी रूप में जूझता हो, उपयोग में लाता हो या तरसता हो, उसके साथ बहस और बातचीत होनी चाहिए, और वो इस देश की महिलाएं हैं। मैं आपसे कह रहा हूं कि मेरे को आपके यहां से फोन आया, आप किस टॉपिक में बोलेंगे? मैं आसमान देखने लगा कि मेरा टॉपिक क्या होना चाहिए। तब मुझे ये पानी के टपकने की याद आई कि गरीब का घर जब चूता है तो प्लास्टिक का कवर होता है जो उसको बचाता है। मेरे को यही ख्याल चाहिए। और फिर मैंने सोचा कि एक समय है एक इकोनॉमिक इकोलॉजी का। आप बताइए, आप, मैं समझता हूं कि मित्र बैठे हैं, ये अब प्लास्टिक जो कचरा, प्लास्टिक, सिंगल यूज प्लास्टिक और तमाम यूज प्लास्टिक जो भी हमने कैटेगरीज बना रखी हैं, उन पे चर्चा है। लेकिन सवाल यह है, क्या विज्ञान अब इतना कमजोर हो गया, सहाय हो गया, कि वो चंद्रमा और मंगल में तो जाना चाहता है, लेकिन प्लास्टिक के कचरे का निवारण करने के लिए उसे तड़पना और भटकना पड़ता है? ऐसा नहीं है। अगर किसी प्लास्टिक से सड़कें बनती हो, उत्तराखंड हो या हिमालय हो, सबसे बड़ी एक्टिविटीज कंस्ट्रक्शन है। या आप मानेंगे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट है? आप बताइए ना, जोड़िए ना दोनों को। जो कचरा पैदा हो रहा है उसको कंस्ट्रक्शन में कैसे ला सकते हैं? और आज देश की सब मिट्टी खत्म हो गई, पहाड़ में तो पत्थर खत्म हो गए, लकड़ी आप उपयोग में नहीं ला सकते। आपका जो फोकस होना चाहिए, जो कचरे का तथा कथित प्लास्टिक का, उसका इकोनॉमिक यूज और उसमें यूज, तो फिर आप तालियां बटोरेंगे, गलियाएंगे नहीं कि प्लास्टिक इंस्टीट्यूट के नाम से ही लोग बिदकते होंगे। मैं भी बिदका था पहले, लेकिन मुझे लगता है कि कुछ पहलू है। मैंने आपके प्रयोग देखे हैं, आपके उपयोग देखे हैं, लेकिन पाठक जी ने एक बहुत अच्छी बात और बोली कि लोगों को पता नहीं है। अब आप तंत्र संभालिए या षड्यंत्र करिए, आप लोगों के बीच में अपने उपयोग, अपने प्रयोग और जो मैंने कहा तुलनात्मक अध्ययन, ताकि उनकी नजरों में पता चल जाए प्लास्टिक का पर्यावरण प्रकृति के नुकसान में कम योगदान है और बाकियों का कमाल है। तब जाके आपको किसी और दृष्टि से देखेंगे, टेढ़ी से नहीं देखेंगे, क्योंकि समय का सवाल है। और मैं आपको बहुत बधाई देता हूं शिशिर, आपके के अंदर बड़ा नेतृत्व है और अपने इस आसन में विराजते हुए आप प्लास्टिक को नए आयामों के साथ जन जन में बांटिए। इसीलिए आपके जो सिफेट के डायरेक्टर लखनऊ के उत्तराखंड के हैं, उन्होंने उनको एक यूनिवर्सिटी के साथ जोड़ के कहा है इनके साथ बात करो। अब मैं तो कह रहा हूं स्ट्रेटेजिकली आप अपने 10% पैसे को, जो कुछ भी आप आते कमाते जो भी होंगे, आप प्लास्टिक के बारे में दृष्टिकोण बदलिए, प्लास्टिक के उपयोगों के बारे में बात करिए। और मैं आप सबको भी, यहाँ पे बैठे हुए हैं कई के लोग, केदारनाथ घाटी को हमने स्वीकारा है। 13 के बाद जो भी घटना घटी है, उसके बाद 70 गांव को अडॉप्ट करते हैं, लेकिन मैं अकेला हूं। आप भी साथ होने चाहिए और गांव के बेहतरी के लिए काम कर रहे हैं। हमारे मुख्यमंत्री भी होंगे और सब होंगे। आप कैसे भगवान शिव को प्रसन्न करते हैं, आप सबको चाहिए भगवान से। मना मत करिएगा जिनके कान में मेरी बात चली गई, वरना तो आप जानते हैं दंश होगा ही होगा। स्वीकारिएगा। आइए केदारनाथ प्लास्टिक फ्री नहीं कहेंगे, प्लास्टिक भी करके बात करेंगे, तो सभी तरह के कार्य होंगे। आप सबको प्रणाम।
मैं एक बात कहना चाहता हूँ इसके पहले कि कार्यक्रम आगे बढ़े। और मैं एक वर्ष में आज मैं एक चीज का श्रेय लेना चाहता हूँ, और वो श्रेय ये है कि विगत वर्ष भी मैंने इन मान्यवर अनिल प्रकाश जोशी को सुना था, तब ये धुर प्लास्टिक विरोधी थे। और जब आज ये कह रहे हैं कि प्लास्टिक के बारे में है, तो आज मैं असली शिक्षक हुआ जिसने एक इतनी विद्वान व्यक्ति को जो है नो प्लास्टिक से KNOW प्लास्टिक तक ले आए। यदि जो लोग पिछले वर्ष रहे हों APM में, उन्होंने सुना था, और आज जो है इन्होंने, तो आज इस चीज का संपूर्ण श्रेय मैं स्वयं लेना चाहता हूं। धन्यवाद।
बहुत बहुत साधुवाद सर। आपने जब पर्यावरण संरक्षण से जुड़े हुए ऐसे विराट व्यक्तित्व अपने विचारों को रखते हैं, अपने अनुभवों को साझा करते हैं, तो निश्चित तौर पे समाज से भ्रांतियों का उन्मूलन होता है। आपका जो ये दृष्टिकोण आपने प्रस्तुत किया है कि किसी की ओर दोष दिखाने से पहले हमें अपनी कार्यशैली पे ध्यान देना चाहिए, निसंदेह ये एक ध्येय वाक्य होना चाहिए हम सभी लोगों का, ताकि हम भ्रांतियों से बचते हुए और आगे बढ़ पाएं। कार्यक्रम को गति देते हुए जैसा कि मेरी सहायक संचालिका ने आप सभी को अवगत कराया था कि ये कार्यक्रम जो है वो माननीय मंत्री महोदय एवं राज्य मंत्री महोदया के मुख्य आतिथ्य एवं विशिष्ट आतिथ्य में संपन्न होना था, किंतु कतिपय व्यस्तता के कारण वे व्यक्तिगत तौर पे यहाँ उपस्थित नहीं हो पाई हैं। तो सर्वप्रथम हम हमारी जो केंद्रीय राज्य मंत्री हैं आदरणीय श्रीमती अनुप्रिया पटेल, उन्होंने जो एक वीडियो संदेश हम सभी को भेजा है, वीडियो संदेश के माध्यम से अपनी शुभकामनाएं सीपेट को और इस अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सम्मेलन को प्रेषित की हैं, वो हम आप सभी के बीच प्रस्तुत करने जा रहे हैं।
Good morning, all. It is indeed a great honor to address this august assembly of distinguished academicians, scientists, eminent researchers, industry representatives, entrepreneurs, and students who are present here at the 16th International Conference on Advanced Polymeric Materials on the theme Empowering Sustainable Development Leading to Viksit Bharat during March 8 to 10, 2025 at CIPET IPT Lucknow. This conference is a testimony to our shared vision of fostering innovation, sustainability, and economic progress in India's petrochemical sector. The theme of this conference, Empowering Sustainable Development Leading to Viksit Bharat, resonates deeply with our national vision. Sustainable development is not merely an option, but a necessity today. It requires a harmonious balance between industrial growth and environmental stewardship. Initiatives focusing on plastic waste management, promotion of biodegradable materials, and integration of green technologies are steps in the right direction. Realization of Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji's vision of a developed India by 2047 hinges on collaborative efforts. Friends, this conference exemplifies the synergy between academia, industry, and government. And by fostering such partnerships, we can accelerate research and development, streamline the commercialization of innovations, and create an ecosystem which is conducive to sustainable growth. I urge all the stakeholders present here to leverage this opportunity for a meaningful dialogue and collaboration. Friends, India is one of the richest in the world for the bioresources, and these resources can be leveraged for the production of chemicals and petrochemical feedstocks to overcome the deficit in fossil fuel based raw materials if proper processing technologies are established. And with a view to optimally utilize this opportunity, Government of India has recently announced Bio E3 policy. I call upon all the participants to discuss, deliberate, and exchange ideas to come up with a roadmap to develop appropriate technologies to process the biomass for the production of chemicals. While the plastic and polymers are essential for many sectors, its wide use has also given rise to the problem of littering and pollution. The problem has increased many-fold and is affecting the environment, which in turn may adversely impact human health and well-being. The sustainability of petrochemicals and the polymer industry depends on our ability to tackle this important issue. Concerted efforts are required for preventing the plastics reaching the environment by way of efficient and effective waste management. While recycling for PET has been a success, recycling technology for other polymers also needs to be developed at a scale which could be achieved only through collaborative efforts of academia and industry. Friends, this conference will feature a diverse range of topics from cutting-edge technologies to advancements in petrochemical sector. You will also have the opportunity to engage in insightful panel discussions, network with the industry leaders, and explore the latest trends shaping the future of petrochemical and polymer industry. I understand that this conference is integrated with multiple events like industry interaction, panel expert discussions, and social initiatives towards the creation of awareness on plastic waste management and responsible use of plastics. Lastly, I extend my best wishes to Professor Shishir Sinha, DG CIPET, and his entire team for the success of the conference, and I hope that the deliberations will be fruitful for all the participants. I thank you all.
जैसा कि इस उद्घाटन समारोह के प्रारंभ में चर्चा हुई थी और आदरणीय सर ने भी हम सभी को बताया कि ये अपने आप में एक ऐतिहासिक अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सम्मेलन होने जा रहा है, क्योंकि इतनी बड़ी संख्या में कभी भी पेपर्स आए नहीं हैं। निश्चित तौर पे आने वाले जो 3 दिन हैं, इन 3 दिनों में ज्ञान की, शोध की, अनुभव की जो अविरल गंगा बहने वाली है, निश्चित तौर पे हम सब उसमें सराबोर होंगे और उसका जो निचोड़ होता है जिसे एक डॉक्यूमेंट के रूप में तैयार किया जाता है, जिससे आगामी वर्ष की रूपरेखा तैयार होती है, उस प्रोसीडिंग्स के अनवीलिंग का समय आ गया है। मैं मंचासीन समस्त अतिथियों से अनुरोध करूंगा कि हमारी जो एपीएम 2025 आज से प्रारंभ हुई है, इसकी जो प्रोसीडिंग्स तैयार हुई हैं, उसका विमोचन आप सभी के कर कमलों से हो, ऐसा मेरा अनुरोध है। मैं चाहूंगा कि जोरदार करतल ध्वनियां चलती रहें। ये केवल एक किताब ही नहीं है, 200 लोगों की वर्षों की मेहनत का निचोड़ है, जो आप सभी के बीच एक पुस्तक के रूप में आ रहा है। उधर कार्यक्रम को आगे बढ़ाते हुए मैं पुनः अनुरोध करूंगा प्रोफेसर शिशिर सिन्हा साहब, महानिदेशक सीपेट, एवं प्रोफेसर मनोज चौधरी साहब, वाइस चांसलर गति शक्ति विश्वविद्यालय, कि आप दोनों दो संस्थानों के बीच होने वाले एमओयू के ऊपर हस्ताक्षर कर आज के इस कार्यक्रम में चार चांद लगाएं और आने वाले 3 दिनों के लिए और दशकों के लिए भारतीय रेल और सीपेट के इस प्रगाढ़ संबंध की शुरुआत करें। जोरदार तालियों से सभी स्वागत करेंगे आज से शुरू हो रहे इस नए रिश्ते की। कार्यक्रम में अब समय आ गया है हमारे मुख्य अतिथि आदरणीय श्री जयप्रकाश नड्डा जी, माननीय केंद्रीय मंत्री रसायन एवं उर्वरक मंत्रालय, स्वास्थ्य एवं कल्याण मंत्रालय, आपके मुख्य आतिथ्य में आज का ये उद्घाटन समारोह आयोजित किया गया। अपनी कतिपय व्यस्तताओं के कारण वो व्यक्तिगत रूप से यहाँ पर उपस्थित नहीं हो पाए हैं, परंतु उन्होंने अपना शुभकामना संदेश एक वीडियो मैसेज के जरिए हम सभी को भेजा है। आइए अब वक्त है हमारे मुख्य अतिथि के उद्बोधन को सुनने का।
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed academicians, distinguished scientists, pioneering researchers, visionary entrepreneurs, industry leaders, and bright young minds. It is a privilege to address this August gathering at the 16th edition of the International Conference on Advanced Polymeric Materials. I had sincerely hoped to be present with you in person to engage in discussions that will shape the future of this critical sector. However, due to pressing commitments, I am addressing you virtually. Nevertheless, the significance of this occasion and the profound impact of the discussions that will take place here in no way diminished as I reflect on the journey of the APM since its inception in 2010. It is heartening to see how it has evolved into a premier platform, bringing together the best minds from across the globe. This conference stands as a testament to the collective ambition of the scientific and industrial communities to push boundaries of knowledge, foster innovation, and drive transformative advancements in the field of polymers, chemicals, petrochemicals, and material sciences. The theme of this year's conference, Empowering Sustainable Development for a Viksit Bharat, is not just timely, it is imperative that India stands at the cusp of an extraordinary transformation. With one of the fastest growing economies in the world, our ambition is not just to grow, but to lead. The Honorable Prime Minister has set forth clarion call to position India among the most developed nations, and for this, every sector must rise to the occasion. The chemical and polymer industry is no exception. If we aspire to make India a global manufacturing hub, if we wish to drive the next wave of industrial growth, if we are determined to ensure that every Indian enjoys the benefits of a modern developed nation, then our journey must be built on a robust foundation of material science and innovation. Cement, steel, fertilizers, and polymers, these are the four materials are the very backbone of modern civilization. Among them, polymers stand out as a transformative force permeating every aspect of human life, whether it is the infrastructure that supports our cities and pipes and cables that bring clean water and electricity to the millions, the advanced materials that drive modern automobiles, or the essential components in the healthcare polymers are indispensable. The future of energy transition, too, depends on our ability to develop high performance polymeric materials. Wind, turbines, solar panels, electric vehicles, batteries, each of these is reliant on sophisticated polymer based technologies. In essence, the march towards a self reliant and sustainable India is intricately tied to the growth and the advancement of this industry. However, to fulfill this vision, we must address the critical gaps. Several high performance specialty polymers that are fundamental to emerging industries are not yet manufactured in India. This is not just the industrial challenge, it is a strategic imperative. Our research institutions and the industry leaders must come together to bridge this gap through indigenous, cost effective solutions. The world is moving rapidly towards the development of next generation materials And India must not only participate in this revolution, but lead it. Advanced polymers for semiconductors, energy storage solutions, medical devices, these are not just opportunities, they are the necessities for a future ready India. Beyond innovation, we must also rethink our approach to sustainability. Polymers have revolutionized the industries, but their indiscriminate disposal has led to environmental challenges that can no longer be ignored. Our ability to manage the plastic waste will define the future of this industry. Recycling and circular economy models must be scaled up urgently. While PET's recycling has been successful, we need breakthrough technologies for the recycling of other polymers. This is where academia, research institutions, and industry must work in tandem to create economically viable, scalable solutions that not only reduce the waste and transform it into high value resources. We must also be conscious of the health and safety aspects associated with polymer production. There are chemicals used in plastics today that may pose risks to human health and well being. This calls for proactive research into safer, non toxic alternatives that can replace hazardous substances. The polymer industry of tomorrow must not only be innovative and sustainable, but also safe and responsible. India is blessed with one of the richest reservoirs of bioresources in the world. The potential to develop bio-based feedstocks for polymer production is immense. If we can harness these resources through advanced processing technologies, we can significantly reduce our dependence on the fossil fuel based raw materials. The recently announced Bio E3 policy is a step in this direction, but its success will depend on collective efforts of our scientific community and industry leaders. The challenge before us is not just to reduce imports, but to create an ecosystem where India becomes the global hub for sustainable polymer innovation. Innovation is the key to progress, and collaboration is the key to innovation. The development of new technologies, materials, and applications cannot be achieved in isolation. The time has come to strengthen the synergy between academia, industry, and policymakers. Research must not remain confined to laboratories. It must be translated into commercially viable products that drive industrial growth, generate employment, and elevate the quality of the life for millions. Conferences such as APM provide the perfect platform for this dialogue, but discussions must lead to actionable partnerships. This conference is not just about knowledge exchange, it is also about inspiring the next generation of innovators. The brightest students, the most promising entrepreneurs, this is the opportunity to showcase their ideas, to interact with stalwarts in the field, and to shape the future of this industry. I urge every young mind present here to think beyond conventional boundaries, to challenge the status quo, and to embrace the spirit of innovation that will define India's next phase of growth. As we look ahead, I have no doubt that APM will continue to grow in stature, attracting the best talent from across the world and setting new benchmarks in the fields of polymers, chemicals, and material science. India's journey towards becoming a global leader in this space is just beginning, and I have every confidence that with the collective wisdom, ingenuity, the determination of those present here, we will chart a path towards future that is not only technologically advanced, but also sustainable, inclusive, and truly Viksit. I extend my best wishes to the organizers and all participants. May this conference spark new ideas, forge meaningful collaborations, and contribute to a future where India leads the world in polymeric innovation. I look forward to seeing the outcomes of these discussions shape policies, industries, and scientific advancements in the years to come. I once again thank you all. Thank you very much.
माननीय मंत्री महोदय का हम बहुत बहुत आभार प्रकट करते हैं। इतनी व्यस्तता के बावजूद आपने वीडियो संदेश के माध्यम से हम सभी तक अपनी शुभकामनाएं प्रेषित करी। उद्घाटन समारोह में हमारे बीच वैश्विक स्तर पर जानी मानी हस्तियां हमारे बीच उपस्थित हुई हैं। लखनऊ शहर है, तहजीब का शहर है। उत्तर प्रदेश में हम बैठे हुए हैं, जहां की तहजीब बहुत दूर दूर तक जानी जाती है। ये शुभ अवसर भी ऐसा है कि हमारी याद आपको हमेशा आती रहे, हमारी याद, हमारा आदर सत्कार और उत्तर प्रदेश की याद आप तक बनी रहे। इस बात को सुनिश्चित करने के लिए सीपेट परिवार मंचासीन समस्त अतिथियों को एक स्मृति चिन्ह प्रदान करना चाहता है। सर्वप्रथम हम सभी के मार्गदर्शक वरिष्ठ आदरणीय प्रोफेसर शिशिर सिन्हा साहब, महानिदेशक सीपेट से मैं अनुरोध करूंगा कि हमारे जो विशिष्ट अतिथि हैं आदरणीय प्रोफेसर मनोज चौधरी सर, इनको सीपेट परिवार की ओर से एक स्मृति चिन्ह प्रदान कर उनका अभिनंदन करें सर। मैं पुनः अनुरोध करूंगा आदरणीय महानिदेशक महोदय से कि वे आदरणीय श्री राजेश कुमार पाठक सर को भी स्मृति चिन्ह प्रदान कर उनका अभिनंदन करेंगे। इस स्मृति चिन्ह की एक खासियत है कि ये सीपेट में ही बनाया गया है 3D प्रिंटिंग के माध्यम से। जोरदार तालियों से इस एफर्ट्स का आप सभी। मैं पुनः अनुरोध करूंगा आदरणीय महानिदेशक महोदय से कि सीपेट परिवार की ओर से स्मृति चिन्ह आदरणीय श्री दीपक मिश्रा सर, संयुक्त सचिव महोदय को भी प्रदान करें। मैं अनुरोध करूंगा श्री विवेक कुमार, संयुक्त निदेशक एवं प्रमुख एवं इस एपीएम के ध्वजवाहक, कि आप माननीय महानिदेशक महोदय को स्मृति चिन्ह प्रदान कर हम सभी की ओर से आभार प्रदर्शित करें। मैं पुनः अनुरोध करूंगा आदरणीय श्री विवेक कुमार जी से कि हमारे बीच मुख्यालय से पधारे हुए आदरणीय डॉक्टर विशाल वर्मा साहब, निदेशक तकनीकी, को भी सीपेट लखनऊ परिवार की ओर से स्मृति चिन्ह प्रदान कर उनका अभिनंदन करें, उनके प्रति आभार प्रकट करें। कार्यक्रम की अंतिम कड़ी की ओर बढ़ते हुए मैं अनुरोध करता हूं श्री विवेक कुमार, संयुक्त निदेशक एवं प्रमुख सीपेट लखनऊ से, कि आज के समारोह में पधारे हुए हमारे समस्त अतिथिगण एवं सभी गणमान्यों के प्रति अपना आभार प्रकट करें। वोट ऑफ थैंक्स के लिए प्लीज वेलकम विवेक कुमार।
A warm good morning to everyone. It has been such an honor to be the host of this wonderful event. It is my pleasure to get the opportunity to propose vote of thanks on this special occasion of this function, 16th edition of International Conference APM 2025. On behalf of my organizing committee and personal behalf, I would like to express my gratitude to our esteemed chief guest, Honorable Minister of Health and Family Welfare and Chemical and Fertilizer, Government of India, Shri J.P. Nadda ji, who has readily accepted our invitation from his busy schedule, and he has given his speech through audio visual. Thank you very much, sir. for your valuable words. I also thank to my Honorable State Minister for Chemical and Fertilizer, Government of India, Srimati Anupriya Patel ji, who has kindly accepted our invitation on this international conference and her special address for this occasion. Thank you so much, ma'am. I also take privilege to thank our esteemed guest, Padma Bhushan, Padma Shri Dr. Anil Prakash Joshi ji, for his presence and his valuable thoughts through his address. And today he has given one mission, that is the comparison analysis, as he said. Definitely, sir, we will move forward with your words and definitely we will work on it. It's my pleasure to thank Shri Rajesh Kumar Pathak ji for his immense presence and addressing the gathering of this today's function. Thank you so much, sir. It's my sincere thanks to Professor Dr. Manoj Chaudhary ji for sharing his wide experience with us. And during his address, he has given many targets to us today because our theme is Viksit Bharat. And I would say कि जब ये थीम हमारे आदरणीय महानिदेशक साहब ने हमें दी थी, जब पिछला कॉन्फ्रेंस अहमदाबाद में हुआ था, लेकिन आज जब सर ने अपना उद्बोधन दिया तो मनोज चौधरी सर के वर्ड को सुनकर के मुझे लगा कि ये थीम जब सर ने हमें दी थी वो आज साक्षात हो गई. एंड ही हैज गिवन वन वर्ड, that is technology driven economy should be there for Viksit Bharat. So definitely, sir, CIPET will contribute in this way also, and definitely we will move forward on these valuable thoughts. I wholeheartedly thanks to respected Joint Secretary, Government of India, Department of Chemical and Petrochemical, Deepak Mishra sir, for his valuable presence and address the gathering today in this function, sir. I extend my sincere thanks to our Director General of CIPET, Professor Dr. Sisir Sinha sir, patron APM 2025. Without sir, this conference cannot be possible. Without sir, this mission cannot be possible. Because his trust with us and in our team always motivated us, always give a passion to do this job. And today, this hall and this gathering definitely shows that he always stood with us. Thank you so much, sir. And this event is happened because of you today. Thank you so much, sir. I extend my sincere thanks to Director Technology Support Services, CIPET, Head Office, for his valuable guidance during this conference. Thank you so much. I express my sincere thanks to DCPC for support us. I express my heartfelt thanks to all valuable sponsors who has sponsored this event, sponsored this conference. Few names I can say because I know by face them. इतनी भीड़ में बाकी चेहरों को पहचानना मुश्किल है, लेकिन कुछ चेहरे जो यहाँ मेरे सामने बैठे हैं उनका नाम मैं जरूर लेना चाहूंगा. HMEL से विनीत सर बैठे हैं, लोहिया ग्रुप से द्विवेदी सर हैं, भूस्मिता से सक्सेना साहब हैं, विशाल पाइप से विवेक जी हैं, राजकी पाइप से हैं. इन सब के नाम मैं इसलिए ले रहा हूं कि इनके बिना और भी अन्य लोग यहाँ बैठे हैं उनके सपोर्ट के बिना ये पॉसिबल नहीं था, क्योंकि पिछले साल जब ये मिशन हमें दिया गया हमारे डायरेक्टर जनरल साहब के द्वारा, तो उस समय एक प्रोग्राम में मैं सर से मिला, विनीत सर से, सर के द्वारा भेंट कराई गई। तो उस समय सर ने कहा कि हम अगली कॉन्फ्रेंस लखनऊ में करने जा रहे हैं, आप इनको सपोर्ट करिए। तो विनीत सर ने एक शब्द कहा कि हम आपके साथ हैं, आप आगे बढ़ो। और आज वो इस कॉन्फ्रेंस में यहाँ स्वयं उपस्थित हैं, प्रतिनिधित्व के रूप में अपनी उपस्थिति दर्ज करा रहे हैं। सर, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कि आपने कहा था, लेकिन आज आपने हमारे लिए यहाँ आकर मुझे मेरा सब मेरे पास शब्द नहीं है आपके लिए। भूस्मिता से सक्सेना साहब हैं, उनका भी मैं आभारी हूँ। और अन्य हमारे जितने भी स्पॉन्सर्स हैं, डीआरडीओ, आईओसीएल, आइकमा, सिडबी, कैनरा बैंक, एलिम्को, यूफ्लेक्स, स्पंजर नेचर एंड एल्सवियर, जिसने हमारे बच्चों की कॉन्फ्रेंस के लिए जो भी बेस्ट पेपर अवार्ड्स होंगे उसको स्पॉन्सर किया है। देन जेके मशीन्स, वेंचर टेक्नोलॉजी, अनगिनत नाम है जिनको मैं यहाँ ले सकता हूँ। वो उनके बिना ये कॉन्फ्रेंस संभव नहीं हो सकती थी। So thank you so much to all the sponsors. I also thanks all the speakers of this conference, and I take the opportunity to express my thanks to all the senior officers from the state government and central government. Special thanks to my all media friends here. An event of this magnitude requires planning and execution with micro details. I all thank to my team members, the organizing committee, for every step in organizing this mega event. I would also express my sincere thanks to all my technical team, my event team, and all my students, those who are with us for this event. Thank you so much.
बहुत धन्यवाद सर। उद्घाटन समारोह को यहाँ पर विराम देते हुए हम सभी लोग राष्ट्रगान के सम्मान में खड़े होंगे।
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंह गुजरात हिमाचल यमुना जनधिकरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मन जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय 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 जय
आप सभी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। 10 मिनट का एक छोटा सा चाय का ब्रेक है, इसके तुरंत बाद हम सभी लोग यहाँ मिलेंगे और तकनीकी सेशन की शुरुआत होगी। मेरा आप सभी से विनम्र अनुरोध है कि समय सीमा को हम थोड़ा सा पार कर चुके हैं, इसलिए कृपया 10 मिनट में अपने हाल में आपकी उपस्थिति को सुनिश्चित करें। आप सभी का एक बार पुनः बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। हाँ, वो हम कर देंगे, कर देंगे। मैं आप सभी को पुनः अवगत कराना चाहता हूं कि चाय के अल्प विराम के बाद प्लेनरी सेशन यहाँ पे चालू होगा। सभी से अनुरोध है कि 10 मिनट के समय सीमा में वापस हाल में आना सुनिश्चित करें।
hello, 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 hello. Say hello, 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 hello. Say hello, 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 hello. Say hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello. Say hello, 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 hello. So, hello, 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 hello. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, 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 hello. Say hello, 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 hello. एक दो रखो इधर, एक लेके जाना, अगर जरूरत पड़ेगा तो दो लेना। ठीक है, एक रखो। कहा रही है थोड़ी देर बंद है।
A very good afternoon to everyone. We request all the esteemed guests to take your seats so that we start the plenary session soon. Thank you. सभी गणमान्य अतिथियों से अनुरोध है, कृपया अपना स्थान ग्रहण करें। A humble request to all the esteemed distinguished guests to take your seats so that we start the plenary session. Thank you. सभी गणमान्य अतिथियों से अनुरोध है, कृपया अपना स्थान ग्रहण करें ताकि हम प्लेनरी सेशन को टाइमली स्टार्ट कर सकें। थैंक यू।
You let me know, right? Yeah. Okay, thanks. Check. Yeah. And the on here. s- We have the slide, not the pointer, but just I don't want the pointer, just to move the slides. I mean, to advance the slides. They should do it, right? As this is keep this for me.
Okay, good afternoon. Please take your seats. We are about to begin the plenary session. It is indeed a pleasure to introduce the first speaker of the plenary session, Professor Ramni Narayana, University Distinguished Professor from Michigan State University. Dr. Ramni Narayanan is a University Distinguished Professor at Michigan State University in the Department of Chemical Engineering and Material Science, Fellow of the National Academy of Inventors, and Fellow of ASTM International. He has 300 plus refereed publications in leading journals and 32 issued patents. He graduated 25 PhD and 25 master's students at MSU. His R&D program resulted into commercialization of 4 bio-based, biodegradable, compostable polymer material technologies, PLA, advanced PLA hybrids, starch foams, and engineered biopolymers. He is active in compost bioreactor process development for managing biodegradable organic waste like food, paper, and compostable packaging products. He has an H index of 61 and 28,000 plus citations on Google Scholar. He is the founding chair of the Committee on Environmentally Degradable Plastics and Bio-waste Products, and he has also developed biodegradable compostable plastics specification standards. He serves as USA technical expert to ISO, that is the International Standards Organization TC61 on plastics, and specifically on SC14 subcommittee on environmental aspects, including the convener of the WG3 on bio-based plastics. He serves as USA technical expert to IOSA TC61 on plastics and also on the subcommittee on environmental aspects, including convener of WG3 on bio-based plastics, convener working group that developed ISO 18606 standard on packaging and environment organics recycling. Today, he is going to deliver a talk on PLA, the biopolymer plastic of the future. Let us all welcome with a round of applause Professor Ramni Narayanan.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I was going to say good morning, but so I'm going to be talking on PLA, and let me jump straight in. Is this going to work? So the first question we want to address is what's on the screen. Where we are talking about polymers, we're talking about plastics, and the question we want to ask is twofold. One, where did that carbon originate from? And is the polymer molecule biodegradable, non-compostable? But the key phrase is that last one, not persistent, right? And I was very impressed with Dr. Sinha's elucidation of the slogan, let me see if I repeat this correctly, and copyrighted to him, but I think this is going to become very famous slogan, which is now do not say no to plastic, but no plastics, or some version of that. It's an apt statement, and I want to illustrate that with these pictures. So, most of you are polymer people, and I want to bring this concept to you to first talk about carbon. That polymers are carbon-centric molecules. As you can see here, they are carbon-centric, that is, they have carbon on the backbone. And oops, I should go back. carbon-centric molecules, and I want you to focus on the extreme left one. All of you should be very familiar with this. This is a carbon-carbon backbone polymer, and by changing that R group, as you all know, the group attached to the backbone, you create this portfolio of polymer molecules that you are familiar with: polyethylene, polypropylene, polystyrene, PVC, all of those molecules. Problem which everybody is kind of confused is when you say plastics, I don't know what plastics mean, because the issue is not plastics, the issue is the molecule that you select for making the plastic. And this carbon-carbon backbone polymer, which is the traditional plastics, if you substitute the backbone with ester groups, which you see there, then you are creating a linkage which is more labile. So to the CIPETans, to the researchers out there, the hydrocarbon plastics of today will still continue, but the innovation which you have to come up with is to modify that backbone so that it is not as strong as it is, but can be modified to make it biodegradable, compostable, but also modified to make it more recyclable. And therefore, my first submission to this group and to the CIPETans out here, the students, how can I create new molecules that has a linkage on the backbone that will make it more easy to break down, whether I'm recycling it, whether I'm making it biodegradable, compostable. That is also a plastic. And this slogan which Dr. Sinha coined, I'm in love with it, because last year a company got the Earthshot Prize from Prince Charles for making a polymer molecule from seaweed. They made a beautiful film out of it, and they called that not PLA, not plastic. How can you have a film and then say it is not a plastic? So we have a problem. We need to communicate. You need to communicate that plastic is a property which gives it versatility, but it's not dictated by the molecule, that you can change the molecule, and therefore that kind of narrative needs to be promoted. This is PLA, and I'm going to talk more about it in a minute, but you notice that all the molecules which I put on the right hand side, they're all ester backbone linkages. So we argue, is it PLA, should be PHA, should it be polyester, PBAT? I don't care. They're all ester linkages. And imagine now, as you researchers, the portfolio of polyesters and copolyesters you can make. You can target performance properties that you want, and you can make sure, can it be recyclable, or can it be made biodegradable, compostable. I don't have the structure in here, but I'll show it to you in the next slide. PET is a polyester. So ester backbone polymers will dominate. This is my message to this group, the plastics portfolio. And what is going to give is this. So let me put, if I were to define this stream for you, I think I may have lost one slide here somewhere, but let me put this up. So the word plastics, if you look at it, is just carbon-centric molecules, okay? any carbon-centric molecule which can be heated and flows or melts and flows is a plastic, thermoplastic. Of course, you can further process it. So when you use the word bioplastics, we use this word a lot. So bioplastics has really no meaning per se. It is just a generic class. That when you talk about bioplastics, you need to ask the question, will that biodegrade at the end of life? And when we talk about biodegradation, and I've been hearing this word biodegradation for a very long time, it means that one, can the polymer break down to small molecules? And can microbes present utilize that in a practical time frame? So there are key requirements you understand here, that it must break down and then the microbe should be capable of utilizing it. But you need to define the environment, composting, agriculture, and you see a cross on land and ocean. Basically, the message is you can't make biodegradable plastics and just throw it away as litter or throw it into the ocean and have it magically disappear. That's not going to happen. So we do need to address how long it will persist in land and in ocean, but that is not a end of life option when you are designing a polymer. So that is one message. But the other side, very important component. This is my definition. Biodegradability is the most used and most abused term in the entire world, in the entire literature. Scientists make it, and as I'll show you later, lots of issues with it. If nothing else, this group must learn, educate yourself that before you can call anything biodegradable as a value proposition for the environment, as contributing to the good of the environment, 90% plus of your carbon has to be converted to CO2 by microbial metabolism. In other words, not by oxidation, not by chemical, not by things, by microbial metabolism. And the second key phrase you see there is practical time frame. Not 10 years, not 50 years, not 100 years. All of these polymers will biodegrade. Given time, environment, we will biodegrade. But we don't biodegrade in practical time frame. Thank God for that. But you realize that is very important. And to define the environment, industrial composting, 180 days, 2 years for soil and biodegradability. Your narrative, when you talk about this, is verifiable and certified. And I'm very appreciative that in India, at least, CIPET has done a great job looking at certifications, right, and measuring to the standard ASTM and ISO. So we'll talk more about that. The word bio-based, biopolymer, bioplastic is used. Bio-based simply asks the question, where does the carbon come from? Does it come from plant biomass, feedstocks, or fossil feedstock? And I like this because the plastics, and especially for CIPET, when I heard the earlier lectures, it does not differentiate where the carbon is coming from. Petroleum feedstocks is also carbon feedstock. Plant biomass is also carbon feedstock. There is a value attributed for plant biomass carbon feedstocks. You heard that from the minister when he said that India has got a lot of biomass resources. Shouldn't we be utilizing it? Well, there is a value attribute for using plant biomass resources in terms of carbon management. But it is simply defining the carbon coming from plants versus the total carbons, it does not define biodegradability. In other words, the polymer structure I told you, where the carbon comes from, defines bio-based. The linkage on the carbon polymer molecule dictates whether it will biodegrade, how fast will it biodegrade, how easy will you be able to recycle it. Right? So keep that in mind as we go along. And I define this with this picture. If you look on the top right-hand corner, global plastics production is 454 million metric tons, 218 numbers. Out of that, 77% of that belongs to carbon-carbon backbone polymers. PET, which is an ester backbone, is about 8%. Polyurethane is about 10%. What I am submitting, which may not be well accepted by all of you, is in the area of packaging, that carbon-carbon backbone, 90% of packaging comes from that carbon-carbon backbone polymer. And that backbone, we made it so strong that microbes can't get to it in a practical time frame. Recycling is difficult unless you can intervene by collecting and then recycling it. But it is a very strong bond. Now you have a choice, right? That's why I like Dr. Sinha's term of plastics and no plastic. So no plastic. Plastic is not just polyethylene and polypropylene and carbon-carbon backbone. Plastic is a polymer molecule that you design and engineer that when heated will flow and take the shape imposed on it. You can injection mold it, you can thermoform it, you can make blown films out of it, and CIPET technology processing, you're at the best. You need to learn how to process these new types of polyesters, which we have, like a PLA, which we are going to create. And that you are plastic bound not by carbon-carbon backbone polymers. So if nothing else, we need to start thinking about plastics as something more different than carbon-carbon backbone polymers. That doesn't mean polyethylene and polypropylene is useless, will go away. There are issues with it. You've heard everybody in the earlier lectures talk about it, saying that it's not going to break down. It forms microplastics, all of the issues. So at least in the area of packaging, flexible packaging, thermoforming, blown films, where you're going to use it, maybe you need to redesign it for ease of depolymerization recycling or for biodegradability, compostability. And what I hope we don't look at is, if you look at PET is not biodegradable, compostable. It still has an ester backbone. And that is because of the aromatic group. So researchers, you got a lot of room to play with. How do you reduce aromatics? How do you introduce new groups? How do you build labile linkages that will either depolymerize easily for recycling or will biodegrade and compost? But what is happening, and that's why I put up esters and urethanes there, but what is happening, and I will refer you to this paper, is this, that the carbon-carbon backbone is the best polymer we have ever made. We made it so strong, whether we want it or not. And now what we are saying is, I made this, I don't want to change it, you do everything back of it. This has always been my drive, my debate. Why should I use carbon-carbon backbone polymers? I need to use a plastic. Plastic doesn't have to be a carbon-carbon backbone polymer. And that is my message here. They are ubiquitous, lightweight, persistent, but the key word there is persistence, non-biodegradable, and accumulates if it is leaked into the environment. Now you're always going to have these plastics for industrial uses, but it doesn't have to be everything. And they will, if it leaks into the environment, they will fragment the so-called microplastics issue. I submit to you that if we switch from carbon-carbon backbone to ester backbones, I don't care what you pick, PLA, PHA, new polyesters, new polyanidrates, whatever, they will not form microplastics because if released into the environment, they will biodegrade at an acceptable rate. May not disappear overnight, but it will not persist and build up. So the take-home message for you here is that carbon-carbon backbone polymers is not the way for short-lived, single-use, disposable type packaging products. Lifetime should dictate whether you use a carbon-carbon backbone or an ester backbone or an anhydride backbone. And fine-tune the molecular architecture for how long it gets to be used. That is what is the future. And that's what I am talking to you about today. But the key thing is that 90% polymer conversion by microbial metabolism, because, as I said, this is the most abused technology space. And I'll tell you why. There are this carbon-carbon backbone, you can look it up. There are lots of claims. I see Rajiv sitting in the audience right here in front of me. He has seen a lot of those. I can throw a magic additive into carbon-carbon backbones, polyethylene, polypropylene, polystyrene. That magic additive can be an oxo, can be biotransformation, that can be enzymes, microbes, name it. They claim that they can break this carbon-carbon backbone to small molecules at room temperature, and that will eventually biodegrade. I hope that I can impress on you that that carbon-carbon backbone polymer designed by us as polymer scientists is so strong that none of these things will work on it. To date, yes, you will see some biodegradation, some microbial growth, some biofilm formation. And then you can't say, oh, therefore it's biodegradable. That's where the 90% comes into play. And I want you to ask yourself this question. Every one of you are polymer scientists. To break that carbon-carbon backbone, you need to, remember your recycling. You use pyrolysis, chemical recycling you've heard of. The temperatures are 400 degrees Celsius and you need catalyst. What you're saying then is, if these additives, which is the claim, can break that carbon-carbon backbone at room temperature, then why are you not using it for recycling? Throw that additive in, just keep it at room temperature and it will fall off for you. And you can then distill, extract, do things with that. So isn't that totally mind-blogging that today, not only in India, all over the world, this claim still continues? I have found the magic additive. There is no magic additive. That carbon-carbon backbone has been designed by polymer scientists to not break down. It is strong, and that's what it is supposed to be used for. So the narrative from everybody is very simple. Forget what additive it is, biochemical, photo, name it. But if it is a carbon-carbon backbone polymer, it will not be biodegraded with practical time frame. And the key word is practical. Right? Now, these claims are clearly disingenuous and misleading. There's a whole bunch of actions. US Federal Trade Commission, State of California, UK government, EU Commission, NGOs, all have called this out. But this continues to proliferate in India, in the US, in Europe. No, and I am asking the question that even if judges, the EU court and the US Sixth Court of Appeal said, wait a minute, this makes no sense. You say biodegrade, but you don't tell me when, in what environment, and it just magically goes away. How is that possible? So how come we accept it? And why is it that a group like yours, people in this audience, should vigorously protest this? This is not acceptable. And the last thing is now claimed. There are products in the marketplace, same concept, an additive to polyethylene, and they claim biodegradability in a landfill. Why? Because there are no requirements to what goes in a landfill. So you don't have to worry about any lawyers coming after you, right? But then you can claim anything in a landfill. And so biodegradability claims in a landfill is meaningless. And having some biodegradation is of value is unacceptable. In fact, today, even in India and elsewhere, we are, Europe, US, we're saying that the biodegradable organic waste, like food, like paper, should be diverted from dumps and landfills to managed industrial composting. Why? Because if they biodegrade in a landfill or in an open dump, it generates methane, which has a 25x global warming potential. So it is essential that biodegradable organic waste, which represents almost 50% of the municipal solid waste stream, needs to be diverted from landfills. So why are you accepting the narrative that biodegradability in a landfill is good? Because you can't test it, or nobody wants to test it. You don't know what's the environment in a landfill. So I will caution, red flag you. You are to take heed of these and not have that happen. Okay. So in order for this to be fully understood, I just want to repeat this slide. What does biodegradability mean? Because that's where the confusion is. The question is, can microorganisms utilize the carbon present in the environment, in that, and assimilate it in a practical time frame? That's the question you're asking. So I'm going to I've done this before, so we can discuss this later. But here is where the message is in this. You can look up this paper. It is not permissible to claim biodegradability just because step one has happened, just because you see some fragments, just because you see biofilm formation, just because you see molecular weight reduction, just because you see carbonyl index. That's not biodegradability. It is a chemical reaction taking place. You are only biodegradable, claim of biodegradability from an environmental perspective if you can prove this part. All of the polymer carbon has been converted CO2 in a practical time frame as defined by the standards, ASTM ISO standards, and they're perfectly harmonious. So I do want you to keep this in mind. And it's a very simple test. All the standards are based on this test, and I want to reiterate to you. You take a flask, a reactor, put a microbial matrix, soil, in compost. Don't give any other carbon food to the microbes. Only provide your test sample. And if that microbes are capable of utilizing that carbon, you will see CO2. And a plot on the y-axis of percent carbon conversion to CO2 microbially against time
tells you how much is your biodegradation, what is your rate, everything. And the rule is that you must meet 90% plus. And all these standards which I've listed here meets that. You follow this thing. So there is, people always say, there are no standards, nothing. I would, at the risk of pointing to Rajiv again, Dwivedi here, ask him for all the standards. They're all well established. They're all specification standards. You have to meet with that. Okay. So I'm going to skip this actual chemistry lesson here for want of time, except to tell you that this is biochemistry, simple. That microbes utilize carbon as food. They don't utilize it to clean up the environment. So the first step is the biological oxidation inside the cell. It gives you CO2, which is an exothermic reaction, gives you 686 kilocalories per mole. And that goes into the ATP ADP cycle. If you open your, I don't know, you're old, when you were in school, maybe you studied this, but if you open your son, daughter's biochemistry textbook, it is there. Right? It's well established. So we know why that happens and how it happens, and happy to talk about that later. But here is another, I note that after me, there's another speaker, a brilliant speaker on use of biodegradable materials in human body and health. And there is a confusion in terms of what is acceptable and not acceptable. When we talk about environmental biodegradability, we said 90% plus in conversion. When they talk about biomedical biodegradability, it is simply designed to break down in a programmed way that is dictated by the application. They don't need to get 90%. Thank you. I only need to have 90%. So this is a big issue, because if you look at the biomedical literature, and we're going to talk about PLA in a minute, the PLA in biomedical literature is called a biodegradable polymer. And the last point is, when they say it is biodegradable, we're simply saying that, yes, it will break down, the fragments will be absorbed by the body. Any polymer fragments is excreted by the body, so it's acceptable. But in the environment, there's nothing to excrete it. It will stay in the environment. And that is the fundamental difference between biodegradation in the environment versus biomaterial. It's a great point of discussion, which that's for me to shut up quickly. PLA, I would just want to introduce to you, because that was what my original talk was going to be. So that is PLA. You start with lactic acid made by fermentation. You have two routes. You go to lactide, or you can do direct condensation. The beauty about PLA is that it has got two stereochemical centers. And that gives you a stereoisomers that influences performance and properties. And so if you start with lactic acid via the lactide route, you get a mixture of SS lactide and the mesolactide. If you start with D, you get RR lactide. And this is very important for you to recognize, because every PLA molecule has got about 4% the mesolactide in it, right? And this influences the properties of it. This is very well recognized. And the process is remove this. So you'll always get a mixture of SS and meso, or meso and RR, but you won't be able to get the racemic one. It's a pretty complex thing, but keep this in mind as you go along. So now this gets too complicated. I will leave you with this thought when I put this structure. The stereochemistry of PLA gives you excellent morphological crystallinity control. It will crystallize, not crystallize. It is amorphous, not amorphous. And for example, that is a linear polymer of polyl lactide. Because it's linear, ordered, it crystallizes. On the right hand side, it has got about 7% meso in it. It goes into a kink, it can't crystallize. So when people present papers on PLA, if you don't tell me how much is meso, how much is L or D, and you don't clearly define the stereochemistry, it's a problem. Because most papers says I obtained PLA from Cargill, whatever number, 4780. I have no idea what 4780 means. You need to define this. It does implicate biodegradability, thermal properties, and everything which you have on that. There's also one thing, since this is CIPET, you do a lot of processing technology. Do you realize that you can take PLLA and PDLA, run it through an extruder, and create a stereo complex which has a melting point of 240 degrees Celsius. The reason I say that is PLA is generally considered useless for high temperature applications. In this particular case, I'm saying you can design PLA to give you very high heat resistant PLA capable of going into engineering applications. But you need to know how to process it. You need to know how to utilize that stereochemistry, but that is possible. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. PLA is a big thing, at least in India. I know there are 2 major plants, and it is a great choice. Not because we were the first ones to do it, but just think of it. Most sugar mills and sugar or sugar-based or carbohydrate feedstocks is fermented to ethanol, right? I mean, there's a lot of ethanol plants. You lose 2 carbons when you make ethanol. If you make lactic acid, you conserve all the carbons. So it is profitable to make lactic acid than ethanol. So it is a wise choice that you have Indian industry looking at PLA. They should have done it long time ago, but better late than never, right? So that's correct. This is an anaerobic fermentation, which is one of the best low-cost approaches to make anything microbially conversion. The last one is, this used to be a problem because this used to run in neutral pH. So then you have to neutralize it to get lactic acid. You will get gypsum. So every kg of PLA resulted in 1 kg of gypsum. Now it has been eliminated. We have engineered acid tolerant strains, and that is why the cost of PLA or lactic acid is so much lower. And this would mean very good future for PLA lactic acid development in India. And last slide, and I'll stop here. Lactic acid PLAs can be recycled to lactide and repolymerized. It can also be biodegraded and composted. It depends on how you engineer your polymer. Depending on where you want to use it, you can make it very strong, very lower. And this has been done with copolymers, which I hope the next speaker will talk about in biomedical application. But the last point which I would leave you with is that you cannot change the requirements of biodegradability, the 90% plus, the performance properties are there. Keep the biomedical and the literature on it in terms of biodegradability very different from the biodegradability of the environment. If you mix the 2 together, it will lead to more confusion in the marketplace. So thank you very much, and sorry for the time.
Thank you, Professor Narayan. It is indeed mesmerizing talk, and definitely the CIPET will take your valuable advice in this aspect, and our scientists and engineers, they will definitely work in this aspect. I assure you, and we'll be in touch with you. Thank you, Professor Narayan.
चेयरपर्सन चेयरपर्सन चला गया वो देखा नहीं ओ, कोई मनोज हाँ हाँ भूमिश
Thank you so much, sir. Let's take forward this international conference of CPET Lucknow APM 2025. Let me have privilege to invite on the dais Dr. Bhuvnesh Gupta. He is eminent professor in IIT Delhi for 26 years. Let's welcome him with a huge round of applause, and further DG sir will be taking this proceed further. Thank you.
So it is indeed a privilege to introduce Professor Bhuvanesh Gupta. I'll deliver a talk on bioengineering of biopolymers for human healthcare. Indeed, it's a you can say the recent topic. So Professor Bhuvanesh Gupta was associated as a professor in textile department at Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi for 26 years, and currently is the director research at Aromatics India Private Limited. He is also chairman Smart Bio Innovation Private Limited and a president of Asian Polymer Association. He has been professor of polymeric material and biomaterials at IIT Delhi. Dr. Gupta did his PhD from IIT Delhi and spent few years as postdoc in Paris. Subsequently, Dr. Gupta worked for 8 years in France, Sweden, and Switzerland under the different capacities in several laboratories. His research activities are functional textile, medical textile, as well as nanomaterials in collaboration with AIMS New Delhi, PGI Chandigarh, Nehu Shillong, Indian Institute of Ayurveda New Delhi, MLSU Udaipur, and Sikkim Manipal Medical Institute Gangtok. Professor Gupta has been associated as a president with several other international bodies. Society of Biomaterials, Artificial Organs, India, and technologies have been transferred to industries. Dr. Gupta has been invited by several laboratories across Europe for delivering talks. With a strong support from a large number of doctorate students and scientists, Professor Gupta's group is engaged in different areas of biotextile and polymeric biomaterials. Let's welcome Professor Gupta.
So thank you, Professor Sinha, for the nice introduction and also for the invitation which was given to me by the CIPET fraternity. It's really a matter of great pleasure for me that I'm here in the company of well-known scientists, and my friends are sitting here. Professor Pandey is sitting over here. So I have been, in fact, working in the field of polymeric materials. Basically, I'm a polymer scientist, and I have been interacting with the medical fraternity, or I would say biologists together. So, in this journey of interaction of polymers and the medical fraternity, we have been working in the field of developing materials for several applications, especially for human healthcare. Now, the situation is that this country, has large population. It's growing each and every day, and we need to go for the health awareness. Now, in health awareness, what is important? Important is that we should have materials We should have materials which have innovations or innovative materials. At the same time, we should have the materials which are going to perform at the site. So in this scenario, when we have both the things together, what we need is that these materials should be accessible to the masses. And what we need for our country is the first thing is the availability of the material, the accessibility to the masses. And the second thing that we need is the affordability to the masses. Even if the material is available, if it is expensive, it will not do the job or the justice for the people together. So when we have a combination of chemistry, polymer chemistry, together with bio, a beautiful domain of medical technology is created. We call it biomedical technology. And this biomedical technology offers products which are used for several applications in the human being. Some of the examples which I like to give over here is that there are several applications of polymers, whether it's sutures which you use as stitches, which is integral part of any surgical procedure over there, or you have the hernia mesh for hernia repairs, you have the stents, at the same time you have wound care systems, catheters, acne, which is the serious problem for the young girls. So in all these applications, polymers are an integral part. Hernia mesh is the polypropylene mesh. Although these days we are finding different combinations of the polymers to create these knitted structures. So in all these applications, what I find is the most important thing is the infection. It's very common. Infection has to be taken care, and I tell you that this infection could be sometimes so difficult, so much that it could lead to even septicemia. That means amputation of the organ has to be carried out. So the message I like to give is that infection looks very simple word, but this infection could be really serious problem and could be fatal in nature as well. So thing is, when we have the materials, we need materials. There are very limited number of polymers which are available. Polyolefins, or every time polyolefins, polyamides, polyesters, all these materials are there. But then question is, each day you require a material with additional features. And you cannot invent a polymer when you need one. It takes decades to develop a polymer, decades to create a polymer structure. So what do you do then? The only thing for you is that you use the existing polymers, functionalize them for your specific requirement, and go ahead. This is what we call it functional designing of the materials. Now, in this series, we have been working with synthetic polymers since long. I remember when 25 years back we started working on polyethylene, polypropylene, polyesters. But then subsequently, we found that it's much more appropriate in terms of features for medical application that we use the biopolymers. And the second thing is biopolymers, there could be polysaccharides, there can be proteins or any other material. But then, especially in today's world, when sustainability is coming up like anything, the biopolymer fit into the structure where they can be used for different applications. And then, especially some of these polymers are interesting, like polysaccharides, chitosan, etc., or pectin, etc. They are hydrogel in nature. And for body, hydrogels are very interesting materials because hydrogels can swell to 100 times, 200 times in the body. And they can perform the job, beautiful job of a highly biocompatible structure, because anything which goes into the body, there is a strong tissue reaction. And in order to overcome this reaction, material has to be biocompatible. This is where these hydrogels they offer a beautiful scenario for several applications. So in all these applications, one of the applications we started in healthcare was the wound care system. Sorry. In this wound care system, what do you need? You need a smart, a wound care dressing is just a covering that covers the wound, nothing else. But then what is the role of this covering that is you use? It takes care of the infection at the site. It's in contact with the tissues, so it should be biocompatible in nature, should be hydrogel in nature. At the same time, it has to be scar preventive. That means the dressing, today's dressing has to be really smart. It should be sarvagun sampanna. That's how we call it. It takes care of each and everything. It's just not a covering, but the covering with the functionality in there. And that functionality means if you have these four things, scar prevention. See, whenever there is some wound and after healing, the scar is left behind. If you can create a dressing that will not allow scar formation, I think you give happiness to the millions and millions of the people. So what we find is we started working in this direction, taking biopolymer. Then what about the bioactive component? You have to combine two things together. So we started working on materials, aloe vera, curcumin, this is haldi, that's the powder that you get at homes, neem oil, and many other possibilities were there. And our nature is full of these active components. Everywhere you find them. So what was the idea? Idea was the way you develop a completely bio-based system for the wound care. And in this situation, so biopolymers and bioactive component together, they can carry out the job. So we started working with the collaborations with chitosan. Chitosan you get from seafood processing industries. If you go to Kerala coastal area, a lot of industries are there. They are making chitosan in there. So we use chitosan or pectin. You get pectin from oranges, orange peel that we process to get the pectins. So these polysaccharides, well, this pectin or the chitosan, sorry, you can combine them together with herbal components like aloe vera or this haldi curcumin. The white one is with aloe vera dressing and the yellow one is the curcumin because that's yellow in color. So you get two different dressings over there. And these dressings development was carried out in collaboration with Jamia Hamdard University in New Delhi. So what we found is that these dressings were really perfect dressings. We use these materials, and if you make them, it's just not like making it. You have to prove in the laboratory. So means you have to go for in vitro model and you have to go to in vivo model. That means you have to go to animals also. And if you go to animals, the first thing is that you prove these dressings in mice. And you find this. The fresh wound is there. The wound at 21st day, it was even difficult to find if there was any wound at all there. The scar formation was 58% here when we do not use anything simple fabric. And scar formation with our dressings was only 2%. And that was the beauty of this system, which we developed based on chitosan and a combination of few things together to make it more flexible and other things. So, because following this kind of observation that biomaterials are or bio-based systems are gaining importance, we started working in different other areas. The people over here, my students, one of them, the third one is now in Pittsburgh, she's faculty there. So we start working on different other materials, tea tree oil, clove oil, and neem oil. Tea tree oil being in fact used for acne treatment. Yes. So these materials, which you see, the wonderful materials, and what we found is one of the cases we also use the honey. Honey has been there. If you see the literature, Vedas and other places, honey has been their traditional. So I use the traditional information there too. So honey and clove oil, you find the pure dextran, pure biopolymer, the petri dish is full of bacteria. But in case of the dressings with clove oil and the honey, hardly any colony is there. So what you see is that these materials, if we use for wound care system, they are really the perfect one. And here also again, we did the same analysis. The material here, S aureus is full of on the surface. But if you have the clove oil based system, you don't find any bacterial adhesion. And if any bacteria adheres there, it's completely destroyed. So this is the scenario there. Sorry. So again, we wanted to see wound healing part. How is the healing? Normally, in biochemistry, you give 21 days to see the healing part. And you can see over here, control sample, 21 days, there's still scar formation. But if you go to clove oil, manuka honey, aloe vera is the best as far as the healing is concerned. The last one. So this is what I'm going to say, that if you compare different ingredients, different materials, there are different possibilities of getting the healing part. Now, another thing is that, sorry if I'm, now the thing is, if the material is hydrophobic in nature, the way, the previous talk, there was PLA and other materials. Polylactic acid is hydrophobic in nature. It absorbs hardly 1.6 or 1.8% water, not more than that. Or any other polyester is hydrophobic in nature. Polypropyl is hydrophobic in nature. Thing is, how do you combine a hydrophobic material with a hydrophilic extract? It's very difficult, almost impossible. So what you do is, you have to functionalize it. And this is where we use plasma processing to carry out the functionalization. So in plasma processing, you can have the plasma on top of the bombard on top of the material, and depending on the nature of the gases, you create a functionality. If you have the carbon dioxide, you have carboxyl group, you have SO2, you have sulfonic acid. If you have steam there, you have hydroxyl groups. So you can create virtually any type of functionality. And what's the beauty? The beauty is you change this nanoscale surface on the top. Rest of the material remains as such with inherent properties. And how much time you use over there? You use hardly 60 seconds. If you want to create sulfonic acid, you have to carry out in chemistry, you have to carry out sulfonation, chlorosulfonic acid or sulfuric acid, 2 hours reaction, cleaning other things. Here, 60 seconds, the material is sulfonated on the surface. And that's where the plasma processing has become a very interesting tool in development of the biomaterials. And you can see this untreated with plasma. I don't know if this will work. Untreated fabric, there's a drop remains as such, But if you go for the treatment, 60-second plasma treatment, if you place the drop, immediately absorbed because of hydrophilicity. This kind of hydrophilicity you create on the surface in seconds without any pollution or without any problems. So in the other cases, if you need more carboxyl groups, you can carry out the grafting process. So you have the grafting is the process where a monomer is polymerized. And if you polymerize the monomer, you get a brush-like structure where you have the base polymer, and on the surface you have brushes out of the monomer. So if you polymerize with the acrylic acid, you get polyacrylic acid brushes on the surface. So this process of plasma we use for development of sutures. Stitches, very often you find stitches, there is an infection and even pus formation. And sometimes situation is too bad that the organ, that body part is really getting out of control. So And especially for the people who live in remote areas in villages, they can't go to the doctor every day. Now, thing is, if you can create and develop a suture which is inherently antimicrobial in nature, your job is done. Then you give this technology, this product to anyone without the fear of any infection at the site. So what we did is we took polypropylene PP suture filament and carried out the functionalization, and the functionalization by some monomer grafting, immobilize the drug on top of it. So what happens when the drug is there? A simple theory: drug is there. When you apply the drug, the suture is in contact with the tissue, and it swells a little bit, and the drug is released to the surrounding area, and ultimately gives you the effect of antimicrobial nature. And you see over there, the colony, you see shaded portion, there is a drug release, so there's no, in shaded portion, there is no bacterial invasion, but otherwise there is bacterial invasion too. And in animal model also, prove this thing. I show you some unmodified suture. You have redness, you have inflammation, edema, that's a swelling at the site, and other complications. But in case of the suture, which we technology developed in our laboratory, no redness, no inflammation, no edema, and beautiful. And if you have these things, your wound is not going to repair. With our material, because there's no infection, so your wound repairing is the best. So similar technology we worked on hernia mesh by grafting. And Bipula, my student, she had her viva 2 days back, and she could we could develop this hernia mesh, which has gone for patenting only a couple of months back, and it did a wonderful job. So with this kind of scenario, subsequently we moved last 4 or 5 years, we have completely moved into a new area which we call herbal bioengineering. And that's what I have suggested to Ayush Ministry and All India Institute of Ayurveda, that we should move into a center of excellence in the field of herbal bioengineering, because this is our inherent strength of सदियों की स्ट्रेंथ है हमारी, जो कि हम लोग रिवाइव कर सकते हैं आज की डेट में. So anyway, what is there? People were using herbal things 100 years back, but each time they have took something and use it. Our thing is that from traditional to smart designing should be done. And this is where we start collaboration, All Institute of Ayurveda, it's in New Delhi. And what we did, worked on smarting development of nanogels, herbal nanogels, and these nanogels are smart. When they go into the stomach, you can, they keep the drug intact. But as soon as the drug releases, goes down to the intestine, the gates open up, and the drug is released to the intestinal area and absorbed. So that's the smartness that's the chemistry which decides the smartness of the materials. So in these cases, another PhD product which we finished last year together with Sikkim Manipal Medical College, Gangtok, where I was director and I had the laboratory there, hemostatic materials. The idea was in contact with us, our laboratory, that they should develop a fabric that soldiers can use, because whenever there is some battle and bullet injury, by the time the soldier is lifted to the hospital, a lot of blood loss is there. So to save the life, instantaneous stuff to develop. So we developed something based on completely biopolymer, which is sodium alginate. We used biomaterial, we used bio-based systems. Even the drug was from the Gangtok area, Sikkim area, and we found something so great that this dressing stops bleeding 60 seconds. No other dressing is there, and this can help even for many other doctors, for many surgical operations in wherever the bleeding is there, cesarean and other cases. So what I like to say is, we are still talking with a couple of industries to transfer this technology. if this can be done. A few slides, maybe 5 minutes more, I give you about tissue engineering. So based on these things, we started working in the field of tissue engineering. And what happens in tissue engineering? This is a beautiful domain of medical technology where people with organ defects, are treated by using their own cells, by growing them on top of polymer support and making a tissue and transplanting back to the patient. So what happens is you don't need a donor because donor is the patient himself. Normally, you have to wait for a donor. Suppose for kidney transplantation, you have to wait for donor. By the time you get it, the patient is dead. In this case, everything is perfect, and that because the cells belong to the patient, the rejection is also not there. So what we do is, wherever there is a problem, we take out the healthy cell by biopsy, expand it into specific tissues, seed them on top of a polymer support, give almost 5 to 6 days time to get the tissue out of it, and then subsequently take the tissue out and just go for the replacement. We did this work with Professor Hilborn in EPFL Lausanne in collaboration with the Central Hospital. And there was a problem with a girl, 6-year-old girl had a urinary tumor in bladder. So what we did, we took out the healthy cell from the bladder by biopsy, expand it, and you see this 6 by 6 centimeter urothelium from that biopsy. It's alive, just like the original bladder. And this was the subsequently, but we had the textile. Important thing was that we had to use textile knitting because bladder expands and contracts as soon as fills up with the urine and empties out. So we needed to have something like pullover, knitting. This भी जाता है, वापस भी आ जाता है. And so took the knitting, modified it, made them bioreceptive, used protein. The cells को क्या चाहिए? Protein to live. So immobilize protein, grew the cells, got the tissue, and this is the tissue. So ultimately, okay, so this video is not working. There was asked the reporting about it, but anyway. I think sound will not be there. So I stopped it because sound normally this was the video which we used, which Aztec came and they wanted to develop it. Anyway, I leave it. I should move forward. It's not going. Okay. So based on this whole thing, then another thing which we did that for bypass surgery, we have developed some blood vessels. But you needed blood vessels. If you can modify the inner layer of the tubes, tubular structure, or the inner layer means by endothelial cells. So blood will see those endothelial lining and will not coagulate. That's how we worked on it. And one more thing which we did for the burn patients, DVT gave us a lot of money for this. But we did it with co-culturing of keratinocytes or the thing, and we developed the skin from the healthy cells. And you can even lift up the skin. So this is how we did all these things. So to conclude my talk is that, it's a beautiful domain if you combine polymers with biotechnology. A new domain is created using biopolymers. Important thing is you have to make these materials bioactive. Functional design is very important. And there's a new domain which I always call it herbal bioengineering. I think that's the future for our nation. Then we have a lot of media reports in our system, different places, different publications, TV channels coming up to our place. Here you see the funding, a lot of funding we got from EU and Sweden and Paris, plus local institutions also. The collaborators from France, from Sweden, and also from some of the Indian places. And after this, faculty collaborations, some are from outside, and especially the Didi Latourne is the one who has been very instrumental. The group my group, research group, who contributed to this, and I take this group. We have chemists in between. This side we have biotechnologists. Other side we have the uh, uh, textile people. Both sides we have faculty from Ayurveda. So it's a group of everyone, because a chemist cannot do all these things alone. We need a group of people, and our group had a combination of different types of scientists. Thank you so much for your interest, and we look forward for this discussion.
Any quick question for Professor Gupta? Looks like none. So maybe during lunch break.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your valuable and informative session, sir. We deeply acknowledge the sharing of valuable information. I would cordially request the chairperson to facilitate our distinguished speaker. Thank you so much, sir. Before we conclude this session, plenary session here, we would like to extend cordial thanks to the chairperson for this session, and I would request Sri R.K. Dwivedi to facilitate him with the memento. Thank you so much, sir. कई जीत बाकी है, कई हार बाकी है, अभी तो जिंदगी का सार बाकी है। यहाँ से चले थे नई मंजिल के लिए, या तो एक पन्ना था, अभी पूरी किताब बाकी है। इसी किताब को गढ़ने एवं पढ़ने के लिए आप सभी का सादर आमंत्रण है आगे के कार्यक्रम के लिए सीपेट लखनऊ कैंपस के ऑडिटोरियम में। क्योंकि समय सीमा को ध्यान में रखते हुए हम आगे का सेशन सीपेट कैंपस में conduct करेंगे. As we are concluding our session, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to all our speakers who shared their valuable insight, all the participant dignitaries. Kindly join us for the lunch, followed by further keynote session in the CPIT campus. Thank you so much.